previously, going back 60, 70 years, that would have contradicted the consensus of scientists. It was understood that the sun is stationary. Later on, we found out the sun actually has an orbit around the Milky Way galaxy. So the Quran was correct. So you can have a scientific consensus which turns out to be wrong, which is why I'm so adamant in using the philosophy of science whenever someone tries to use scientific arguments against the Quran.
Scientists never asserted that the sun was still. The ancient Egyptians had known that there was an orbit around the Earth for a very long time.
No, they did.
They did.
We're not saying the Earth doesn't go around the sun. That's a different point. We're saying that the sun is stationary. That's the view that scientists, the physicists held in the beginning of the 20th century.
Ancient Egyptians proved that that there was an orbit
for the sun goes around the Earth.
No, that the Earth goes around the sun.
That's a different point. That's a different point.
But he's talking about
He's not talking about, by the way.
Oh, around the center of the universe, you mean?
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, so the point is, what we say, all of these ones, yes, the brother is talking about like science hypotheses and science, for example, theories that presented by scientists. I'm not talking about, I'm talking about facts, things which is fact, natural facts. Now I believe, as a Muslim, that Quran doesn't contradict the natural facts. The facts, beyond any doubt. Like, for example, when we talk about facts, it's as much as the sun rises from the east, for example, or, for example, we observe the sun rising from the east. That's fact for us, yeah? Now, that's in regard to our observation. So for us, the Quran doesn't contradict with these facts. Now, of course, we might have at certain time that there's kind of consensus between scholars about certain theories. For example, nowadays, we find kind of there's consensus, for example, agreement between scientists about, for example, Darwin theory and other things, even the Big Bang and all of these things. Now here, this not necessarily, even though I disagree with both of them, for example, but at the same time, there might be a time in the future that they are proven wrong. For example,
this is possible.
Yeah, it is possible.
However, can I contextualize that?
Yeah.
All of our assertions we're playing a scale of probabilities, Although it's possible, I don't think it's probable. And a wise man will play the higher probability without discounting the fact, assuming it's certain. I'll keep the smaller probability.
But I think there's one thing important. A wise man should make conclusions of probabilities based upon his worldview.
True, but he should at least strive to make his worldview be as self-consistent as possible from all angles of inspection.
Agreed.
And have the strongest steel man position.
Agreed. So, if you come to a conclusion different to mine, it's not because we don't value induction. It's because we're coming from two different perspectives.
Yeah, I think usually what you discover, certainly in the sciences when they move forward, is you made a false assumption in the past. Usually it's not about disagreements in the future. It's like you went, we thought space and time were two different things. Well, guess what? They're the same. We thought particles and waves were different things. They're the same thing. This keeps happening, and but our intuitions lead us to divide the world up in a way which the physical sciences show is not the case. The physical sciences are profoundly counterintuitive, and I think they put a clear boundary condition on how you can use inferences.
Okay.
Which is why, I need to be clear on this point. I'm very hardline. I've got a clear division between metaphysics, ethics, teleology, which I love to discuss with you, and I want to find as much common ground as possible. Then, to me, there's the physical sciences, which are to deal with stuff and facts, and on those I disagree with you more profoundly.
Facts, not theories.
I'd rather not bang my head. I think this conversation's gone really well about.
But can I just add? Can I just add one example? I had a debate with James Fodor. He's an Australian atheist academic, and we were both disagreeing about Darwinism. He believes you can call it a fact. I believe we can't call it a fact, and we had this discussion. What's interesting is at the end, we both agreed. Whether you call it a fact or not is based upon your epistemology.
No question, but all epistemologies do not have equal merit.
No one's saying that. No one's saying that.
The highest quality epistemology, and the highest quality epistemology will be the one which is most self-consistent and gives predictive power. And Saboor, Because I love talking the metaphysics, I'd rather talk with you off camera about evolution and cosmology first. Because I had a conversation with one of the Dawa team about 6 months ago, which I regret, where we were on the physics stuff, and I started to get quite irate because I'm far more hardcore on that, and I'm less common groundy and I'm more confrontation. And I'd rather discuss that with you off camera first, so I didn't suddenly on camera go, hey, guess what? I don't want to do that, yeah? Because I think what we've said about induction and consciousness and panpsychism in particular.
Yeah, but we're friends. I wouldn't mind anyway.
I know, but I'd just like to have an honest chat
That's
off
fine,
camera
fine.
before bringing
But I need
on
coffee
camera.
anyway, so we can have that chat.
Yeah, we can maybe do that.
Yeah, we can go and have that.
I could can I ask you a thought experiment quickly? It's just a left field thought experiment.
Sure, yeah, let's do this.
If a kid
I actually learn a lot from you, by the way, so I enjoy these conversations. Yeah, yeah.
if a child dies in Islam, they're assumed to have been born Muslim, and I think in other religions innocence is assumed. So it's assumed they'll go to heaven, yeah? Therefore, why shouldn't the parent, if they definitely want the kid to go to heaven, just keep the child in a self-contained box? It's a thought experiment, I know it's wacky, but in principle, if I really want my kid to go to heaven, why shouldn't I buffer them completely from the outside world for the duration of their life? Then presumably you agree they would go to heaven.
What I would do, I'll let Sheikh answer that, because these are one of those questions that I need to have certain Islamic references before, because here I'm not talking about philosophy.
Okay.
He has knowledge which I don't, so maybe it's best he answers.
Okay,
this.
great. I think not knowing or waiting and thinking it over is always a good answer.
That's fine. Now, first of all, the answer to your question comes from different perspectives. The first perspective, that our Prophet, that Allah confirmed, for example, because we believe that the source of information for us is the Quran.
Sure.
The source of the truth for us is the Quran. Allah told us in the Quran, "O you people, we have created you from a man and a woman, and we made you into tribes and nations, and in order for you to meet and to know each other. And the best one amongst you are those ones who are more dutiful to God. Those are the best one amongst you." So God confirmed to us that the purpose of us existing on this earth is to submit our will to God. Yeah. And at the same time as well, and in the same time, it doesn't mean that we keep ourselves in a box actually interacting with people. And that confirmed in a hadith, which is the saying of the Prophet, peace be upon him, which when he stated it clearly, peace be upon him, he said the person who deals with people and be patient on their harm and whatever he receives from them is more dear and more beloved to God than the ones who doesn't deal with people and is not patient with them.
Okay, I'm just going to pray and come back.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to in a minute anyway.
I'll be back.
So the point is, so our Prophet, peace be upon him, you can leave it
Leave it
here.
there. Just leave it there.
So our Prophet, peace be upon him, told us clearly, here there's another one. So our Prophet, peace be upon him, told us clearly about this. So that's why we as Muslims, our duty is, first of all, to teach our kids Islam, to let them understand Islam properly, to understand the morality of Islam, so in order, and to, as well to make sure that they're strong enough to deal with their society and communities, interacting with them, and in order for them, and that's the idea as well, part of our duties as well convey the message of God to the others. So we have to prepare the next generation to do so.
So can I feedback what I think you may have just said, which is that it's actually healthy for someone to be exposed to a certain amount of temptation and trial.
Yes.
Yes? Okay, this is important.
Yes,
Because if we agree on that, then the question becomes, what is the sweet spot? What is the optimum point of exposure to ideas? And here's where I could start getting political and start talking about Sharia and stuff. And again, I don't want to do that.
No,
I've enjoyed the metaphysics. So if you would care to talk about the politics off camera first.
My point is, I have no problem, by the way, discussing, because we have no secrets. But generally, let me tell you something, Now, for us as well, in the same time as well, meaning exposed to the things around them, as well, our Prophet, peace be upon him, as well, indicated to us as well, that the person shouldn't throw himself in a situation that could be dragged, or to be dragged in that situation. So Allah told us in the Quran, for example, Allah said, don't come close to fornication. Allah didn't say don't fornicate, so told us even don't come close to this. So any path that could lead the person to fornicate or to commit this, for example, this crime in Islam, which is fornication. So Allah told us in the Quran not to come close to it. So meaning Islam is literally cutting that cutting the path that leads the person. And of course, dealing with people. Today I'm dealing with you here. We discuss, we interact. We may agree, we may disagree. That's, at the end of the day, you have my faith and I have my faith. Yeah? That's how it is. So the point is, I came to the point, I strengthened myself in my faith, and I studied and I learned in order for me to stand where I'm standing here. So I will be not pulled by, for example, with your arguments about other things. So I will understand these things. You see the point? And at the same time as well, not necessarily the person will put himself into a temptation situation that could lead him to go astray or to leave, for example, Islam, or to commit, for example, major sins in Islam. That's how it is.
Okay. My counter feeling on that, because now we're on ethics, to me, and ethics isn't physical science,
Yes.
is that if I resist a temptation which is stronger, it's more ethical and virtuous of me than if I resist a temptation which is less strong. In other words, the more my ability to resist, the more ethical I'm becoming. Yeah? I almost want to test, surely I would want to test the limits of my temptation. As long as I don't cross the line and fall into temptation, I'm becoming a more rigorous and robust ethical entity.
Okay.
If I can handle a temptation, and to do that I need to be exposed to it. I'm not drawing I'm just chucking that in the mix and seeing how it
I understand. The point is, we shouldn't be going to expose ourselves to the temptation. We shouldn't be throwing ourselves into sins or close to the sins and to say how much we can resist. The point is, we need to distinguish between two things. First of all, me living my life, dealing with people in my own life, and things to be exposed to me, or me go to search about certain things just out of curiosity or whatever, and then after that it could lead me to go astray. So those are two separate things. First of all, I will live my life. I will work, I will study, I will do whatever, and then if I'm exposed to certain temptation, here is my resistance and here is my test. And people, they gain certain, for example, tests in their life. Some people, they will say, okay, and I know, for example, a brother who I know, he said he traveled to one country, and then to one of these countries, and then he said, I went out, I got my hotel room, and then the key, and I went out, I came in, and I found naked women on the bed. Okay. He said, I didn't request for her, I didn't call her, I didn't ask her, but they kind of, in that area or whatever, they do such service.
He was tempted.
Now here he is in this test. And he said, at this point I was tested, and this is the temptation that I was facing, and he resisted it by, just leaving the room. And then
I would have thought he gains more kudos in my view, and I suspect God's, that he resisted a more intense level of temptation than if he wasn't exposed to it at the first time. The only problem will come if he gave into the temptations. But if I can live my life where I go to the edge of my temptation, but I don't drop over the edge, kind of like just doing physical exercise, you try and lift as much as you can. You don't lift more than you can, because then you damage yourself. But if you're trying to stay fit, or if you're trying to get stronger, you actually try to go to your edge of your potential.
The issue is, it's not like that in Islam. The issue is, we don't go to the edges because you don't know your boundaries. You don't know how much you could resist. You don't know how much you could protect yourself. You never know.
No, but hang on. But given the previous discussion,
but here,
you never know. It's all probability.
First of all,
you learn the wisdom to find out where it might be, and you start to.
But God told us how. God told us in the Quran, don't get close to fornication. Meaning any path could lead to fornication, we shouldn't be getting close to it. That includes even any relations between both male and female. So that's, God told us here, that's why we believe as Muslims. It's not about an experience, not about doing experience. It's about we believe we have to follow this book, the book of God. And it has rules. Part of it, God didn't say don't fornicate. If that's the case, then yes, you're right. Let me see how much I could resist. But God didn't say that. God said, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا. Mean don't come close to it. Any path that leads to it, don't do that. For example, God told us as well in the Quran, plus as well in the Hadith, whatever a big amount of it makes you intoxicated, the least amount of it is not permissible. Now he said, what's least? You could say, somebody say, only a little bit, it doesn't make you intoxicated. Some people say, a small cup of wine, a small glass of wine, it doesn't make you intoxicated, it doesn't make anything to you. That's for you, for example. But for us here, what is the least here? So Islam draw the line there and said, okay, because you could find some alcohol drinks that has 60% of alcohol, for example. Yeah, some alcohol. Some people they're mad. They have this more than that. Some drugs as well, which is small amount, milligrams, that could make you, lose conscious. So God draw the line there. So don't come across these lines. That's all.
Look, I think the prescriptions against drugs are astute and good, and I respect the discipline of most Muslims I meet who don't indulge, and I think that's good practice. Simultaneously, I do think that drawing clear lines of going, don't even learn your own boundary through experience, just ideologically draw a line and don't do it, is very safe. It's like driving with the seatbelt, or it's like driving the bike with the safety wheels. Yeah, it'll get you there. I'm not saying it won't. I just simultaneously kind of feel like the person who takes the safety wheels off and still can ride the bike is in some sense riding the bike better. It doesn't matter, they'll both get you where you want to go. And I'm not trying to insult them.
Yeah, I understand. Our point, we have certain rules.
Yeah.
And these rules were sent by God, the one who knows us. We believe that we are created by this God, and this God has created us for a purpose, and this purpose is to submit our will to His will, and He knows us better than ourselves. That's why He drew the line for us, told us this. He told us, if you have temptation towards women, God, which is the no, get married.
And vice versa, women have temptation.
I know women, and as well, get married. So there is a solution for get married, and then after that, and you could live your feelings and your emotions and all your temptation with your wife, no problem. At the end of the day, there is husband and wife. They can practice whatever they wanted to do, between themselves. There are certain things which is not permissible between husband and wife, but generally, everything is permissible between them. So these are things that God told us here. If you have temptation towards, for example, towards opposite gender, then the marriage is a solution, and that's how it is. Now, as well, if the person finds it difficult to get married, then to fast, to abstain from eating and drinking from the morning until the evening, so the person at least will focus on his self-consciousness and his faith, etc., until whenever he or she are ready, then they can get married. So there are solutions for it. So God told us, this is the problem, and that's the solution. So for everything in our life, for example, that you'll find that the scholars of Islam, there is a consensus agreement between the scholars of Islam that cigarette is not permissible. Some people, they say, but here, I know someone, like, for example, I saw, for example, a clip talking about someone. He smokes cigars. I think he smokes, I don't know how many cigars in a day or whatever, and he's 100 years old or 95, something like that.
George Burns.
Yeah, and then he said to him, didn't the doctor told you that not to smoke? How many cigars is
He's the exception to the rule.
Yeah. But he said, my doctor is dead, so he just... My point is, yes, he's exception. Yeah, so that's why I know people who literally, I know some old men from my village who smoked all their life, this old type of cigarette, proper ones, and yet
which is
they live,
drug. Hang on, this is
which is drug. Yeah.
But you're not allowed to take drugs.
Yes, exactly. Addiction. So that's why
Nicotine's the worst
nicotine is the worst one. So that's why in Islam, draw the line there. So you don't come anything that's harmful to your body, that's harmful to the others, that's harmful to the environment as well. We are not permissible to do.
It's a good idea.
We are not allowed to hunt animals for the sake of hunting. We are allowed to hunt for the sake to eat. Otherwise, we are not. Yeah. So just only to survive and eat, no problem. You may hunt. Otherwise, you can't.
And you don't believe in interest, is that right, as a concept?
Yeah, we don't believe in that.
And there may be a lot in that.
Yes,
and there is really rudely interrupt, because I've learned a lot from both people here, from yourself and your family, and you as well. Are you a philosophy lecturer or something?
No, I'm just a guy who's I've always been interested in this stuff.
Are you all on YouTube or something? Because I'm learning from both you.
These guys are. I'm not a social media. I mean, I end up on camera here sometimes, and part of me would like to start a channel, and part of me just hasn't.
I thought the dialogue was great here. So
we have a dialogue.
It's nice and
balanced. It's been constructive. With Saboor, it often is. It's really good that you can get a dialogue going.
Yeah, we try our best to keep a dialogue, to keep a good conversation. At the end of the day, our point here and our idea here, first of all, to call people to Islam, and as well, and to explain Islam, to introduce Islam to the others, to know what is Islam about, including the one who have a discussions with us, or even on the camera, so people will learn about the faith, our faith of Islam. So that's why you will find as well. No problem. All right, look after yourselves.
Can I then ask you a more general question?
Yes,
Because
ask.
I'm trying to keep off physics and cosmology.
That's fine.
And more in ethics and metaphysics, but just as a general
good.
principle. I
That's fine.
come at this by thinking that the practice is more important than the theory. Okay? I think in any discipline, particularly spiritual practice,
Like what?
most people
Give me
are
examples.
making a decision. They have to prioritize one over the other. Yeah?
Give
And
me
I think the
examples.
I think actually doing the 5 pillars is more important than the rationality behind it.
Yes, that's absolutely true. We believe, for example, the 5 pillars of Islam, the practical, because that's why in Islam there are certain concepts we have to believe in, yeah, and then as well there are some practical side as well, which is this is the meaning of submission to God. Submission to God has 2 main things. First of all, or has 3 main. Firstly, to believe in the heart about His existence, about His oneness, about that He is the only one worthy of worship, yeah, and to submit to Him, and this is in the heart. And as well to testify this with the tongue, and to implement this with our limbs. Includes the 5 daily prayer, fasting the month of Ramadan, being charitable, doing the righteous things, abstain from the evil things. So this is how it is, and to live in harmony with everything, you know, around us. And that's why you'll find, for example, I believe, have you visited Spain, for example? Huh?
I have in the past.
Yeah, for example, you could see that always that the societies, the Muslim society, is about, for example, green, water, things like that. You know, so it's about to live in harmony with the things, with everything surrounding us. It's exactly the same thing. Basically, to build, not to destroy, to build and to utilize whatever. Everything in the nature, to utilize it in the best way, in a harmony way, but rather than just to destroy the, you know, and as well producing pollution and destruction on earth. And Allah confirmed this in the Quran as well. Part of the verses in the Quran that ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس. That meaning the corruption appears on the earth and on the sea, and in the sea what the people have done, what they have committed. That here the corruption could be the corruption in the faith, and as well some scholars they said even corruption including, for example, pollution, including destruction on earth. This is because of what the people have done, and that's why look like there are many animals that they've been terminated from here because of what? Yeah, because of what? Because of the people, you know, hunting and people, the pollution that we done. So Islam is against that. And as well,
all of the ideals you're listing, I think, are admirable, and I agree with.
Okay, then.
So I agree with the ideals, and I see great merit in a lot of the practice, the 5 pillars certainly, which I think are done in other religions. This is my point. I'm a universalist, okay?
Yes, sir.
So I can't help but notice that virtually all religions kind of do the 5 pillars. Yeah,
there are
me, that's
certain
very
things.
interesting.
There are some certain common things, but here we have to understand which way is the truth. If there is one God, there should be one true faith. Which faith is that true faith? This is the question which we have to ask ourselves.
But if you believe the practice is more important than the theory, then if you've got, you know what, like
part
now
of
still getting
the
more
first, by the way, the first pillar in Islam
Yeah.
is the testimony, to testify none worthy of worship except Allah, and to testify that Muhammad is Rasulullah. It's not this here a testimony that confirms your faith in the heart and submission with you by your tongue that you are ascribing to Islam, yourself to Islam. So this is the first pillar in Islam. So that's why when you say the 5 pillars, that's the first thing. To subscribe to Islam.
I know. I as a universalist interpret that all religions are tapping into God to some degree, including Islam. Okay, that's where I'm at. I don't want to misrepresent where I'm at.
By the way, did you see some videos by Jeffrey Lang?
Jeffrey Lang.
Yeah, from America.
About what? No, I don't think so.
I think he was the head of Atheist Society in the past.
Okay.
He's a professor, and then later on
I've heard the name, but I'm not aware.
just you Google him. He embraced Islam, and actually, this man, he has done a lot actually, and as well, he said a beautiful statement. He said, you know, when you read the Quran, and the more you read and understand the Quran, you will come to 2 things. Either you say, this book doesn't exist, and ignoring it, you know, just it's not there, just live your life. And if you know that it exists, it's true, then in that case you have to submit to to what is in this book.
Well, then he's wrong, because I'm in a third position. Sorry.
So that's why actually see some of his lectures. See maybe just Google him, see some of his lectures. See his journey to Islam, what brought him to Islam. You could see that at least this man, he was a scientist.
Yeah.
He's someone, I think he's a mathematician. I don't know if that's true. As far as I know, he's a mathematician.
I'm 100 pages.
Is he a mathematician, Jeffrey Lang?
Jeffrey, I don't know.
Yeah. By the way,
100 pages into the Quran.
okay, good.
My universalist convictions are just getting stronger. My respect for the practice is increasing. My respect for the theory is, no offence, decreasing a bit. That doesn't mean I don't think there aren't very good core principles.
See, just Google.
It's the peripheral ideas I have no problem.
Just Google him, Jeffrey Lang, today.
Debate's very serious. That was a good one. Just
Yeah.
Hi man, let's see.
Yeah.
Like the flag, I'll be one more.
Yeah. Just Google him and see his journey to Islam. Just see, it's an interesting journey.
Okay.
He was in the same position as you are.
You know what? We could do a trade. I'll look up who. Give me the
Jeffrey
name.
Lang.
Jeffrey Lang.
Yes.
Can I recommend a guy to you
Yeah, that's him.
who is more political, and his name is Daniel Schmattenberger. Now he's got more of a kind of a political eco-agenda about the meaning crisis and how to deal with the world's problems.
Okay.
And I could send you a half-hour Q&A. I find him hugely impressive, and a number of other people I respect.
What's his
You might
name?
like Daniel Schmattenberger.
Daniel Schmattenberger.
Insofar, yeah, him. Okay, he's been on Lex Friedman's podcast for 4 hours. Lex said it was one of his best.
Is he from Germany?
I'm not sure, but he's very interesting, and he speaks to the problem of interest. He identifies the compulsion of interest as being a fundamental.
I remember him. I remember him.
Yeah.
And actually, I was at that time. I think one of university invited him over, and literally he was literally standing with Islam concept about interest.
Yeah.
That he said the interest literally, this is the destruction.
Yeah, you have a real overlap on that.
Yeah, and actually I remember, and he was literally introducing part of his statement. I think he mentioned that Islam as well, which literally doesn't introduce interest,
Yeah.
and he said, and that's a solution for the society and for the economy, which is we agree. That's we believe in. That actually the interest is the destruction of the economical system.
Yeah.
That's true. And Allah confirmed this in the Quran. وَيَمْحَقُ اللَّهُ الرِّبَا وَيُرْبِي الصَّدَقَاتِ. Allah will destroy interest and usury. It will be destroyed sooner or later. And Allah will يُرْبِي الصَّدَقَاتِ, meaning Allah will enrich the charity and donation for His sake. So that's something that goes as well with the understanding of Islam.
Listen, I've really good chat with both of you.
Thank
I think
you.
we found a lot of common ground. I
Thank
think
you.
it's instructive to everybody.
So-
And I'd love to chat more.
All right.
Can we get off camera first?
No problem. That's fine.
great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You're welcome. Thank you. All right. Look after yourself. Look after yourself.
Thank you.
All right, my brothers and sisters, we have a very interesting conversation, and we have pleasure, having you today and having this beautiful conversation. I ask Allah to guide him, to bring him to the right path, and to guide us all to the right path. جزاكم الله خير. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك. نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.